Hello YouTube, Top Notch Sports back again. This is the second part of my NFL off-season video. This is on the NFC, and the NFC off-season moves, whether they, do the draft, do trade, or free agency. And, I'm going to break down some moves and, how I like them and why I like them, and of course their respective teams and players. So let's get into it. First move I really like, I'm going to start with the Green Bay Packers in their draft. I really like the idea of drafting two running backs. The Packers really haven't had a very good run game since their Super Bowl run. And the Packers, to me, are a team that they're kind of more like a running back by committee. When they won their Super Bowl, they had Starks, they had, Brandon Jackson, some other guys that, were good as well. They ran it by committee, and I think that's what they're really trying to do again. And also, Jonathan Franklin, Eddie Lacy, both good college running backs, especially Eddie Lacy, terrific college player. If one doesn't work out, the odds are that the other might work out. Or if both of them work out, they have a two-headed monster in their backfield, and that was the only weakness in their offense, which is a potent offense. So I really like the move. Falcons, I like what they did on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. The defensive side of the ball, what they do is they bring in a guy in Osi Umenyiora who's been, a very good player for the Giants in his tenure there. And, I think that he can go in, he can replace John Abraham, he can get to the quarterback, he's going to help their pass rush. Their defense is pretty good. I really think that he can keep it to where it is, or who knows, maybe, if on the Giants he's more of a situational player, maybe on the Falcons he can, take it up a notch, being an every down defensive end. I do. Great pass rusher. And on the offensive side of the ball, to replace Michael Turner, Steven Jackson. And Steven Jackson, in my opinion, is even better than Michael Turner. He's a big physical back. He's going to be a guy like, they have such a great passing game out at Atlanta, right? But, okay, so you want to take some pressure off your quarterback in your pass game, you go to Steven Jackson, who has consistently been one of the better backs in the league. And when you're focusing such on a pass game like that, it allows the running back and Steven Jackson to his holes might be better, and it allows you to run some play action. So I really like that move. I think it even takes their offense to even the next level. And they're already a top offense in the league. This could really make them the best offense in the league. I really do. I really think that. Vikings, I really like the move of Greg Jennings. You got a guy in Greg Jennings who I know so far he's been making a little comments on his ex-team, and I understand that, but he's not really a guy like Percy Harvin who wants out. He signed a big contract on this team. He's been a legit number one for a while, and, the Vikings haven't had that since Brett Favre was there, and, they kind of had Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin and Bernard Berry and all those guys, right? It really, gives them a legit number one who can line up on the inside and make plays, line up on the outside and make plays. He's a bruiser on those crossing routes. He's a fantastic route runner, and he can get down the field as well. So it takes a little pressure off Adrian Peterson. You saw in the playoff game, right, when they had no pass game, they just load up the box, and he still played well. So just think, they finally have a legit number one receiver that they haven't had since their 12-4 NFC Championship season. I'm not saying they're going to make it that far, but that's the last time they actually had a legit number one. I really strongly believe that this could take this team a little further in the playoffs. I do. I really like what the Arizona Cardinals did. Finally bringing in a quarterback to help Larry Fitzgerald and Carson Palmer. He's carrying some motivation because he's on a very bad football team last year. I think he really, his window's closing, as he stated. And, this Cardinal team, he has a chance to get in the playoffs. You look at the Cardinals, they have a good defense. Their offense could be good again. It's just, they have a top receiver. They have, I don't really know what their running back situation is, but their running backs usually are pretty good and, could do some damage. So, this could be a good football team. I think that, they've got off to a good start the last few years, kind of fell off at the end. But now when you actually have a quarterback who can be consistent for the season, which he's been consistent, well, not completely consistent, but he's been decent the last few years, and a guy who can get Fitzgerald, who is still a top 5 receiver, and a guy who can take over games as good as anybody at any position in this league, then you made the right move. I really think that this is a good move for them on the offensive side of the ball. Now, I really also like Tyrann Mathieu. The Honey Badger, of course. I think that is a good move because it gives them another playmaker in that back end. You know, they let go of Adrian Wilson, who was a good playmaker, a good tackler for them. Now you have, you know, a feisty, a playmaking, a tough player in that back end. I mean, who knows what he'll be in the NFL, but I've heard some great things about him in training camp. I heard he's a playmaker. And, you know, the Cardinals, their defense is way better than it was when they made the Super Bowl. And now it's their offense that, you know, was held back. This guy could really solidify their defense. I really think that because of his playmaking, his aggression. He's a, you know, we all know he's a terrific competitor. I think he's really going to help their defense. Next, I'm going to go with, you know, staying in the NFC West with a few teams. I'm going to start with the San Francisco 49ers. There's some moves I really like. You look at a guy, Anquan Boldin, huge part in one Super Bowl champion team and a Super Bowl runner-up. He's a great guy to have on the team because he shows up in the playoffs. He's a good regular season player. But in the playoffs, he takes it to another level. Another guy like Greg Jennings, right? He's a pure wideout, though, who's a bruiser on crossing routes. He's tough on those stick routes, you know, on those deep comebacks. He's got big, strong hands. He's a good deep threat. I really think that Anquan is another good threat for that 49er pass game, which is kind of thin in receivers. Outside of Michael Crabtree, you know, they didn't get much out of Randy Moss. They have Vernon Davis, but as another perimeter threat, I think that takes their offense to the next level as a passing team. And also it could help Kaepernick stay healthy because Kaepernick seems like he was very reliant on running the football. Another move I really like is Marcus Lattimore. He was one of the top running backs in the nation when healthy. Now you add him. Who knows what he'll be like after tearing his ACL? But you know, it's been proven Adrian Peterson's a freak of nature, but he came back from it. So I think this guy could come back from it if he rehabs hard, and he could be a guy. They already have Michael James. They already have Kendall Hunter. They already have Frank Gore, one of the better running backs in this league. So now you add a fourth guy to that aids in depth for injuries, and also, you know, they could take a little of the workload off of Frank Gore. Frank Gore is a guy who he does so much. You know, he protects the quarterback. He's tough up the middle. He can get around the edge. He catches the football out of the backfield. He can really do a lot. But if you can keep his workload in moderation and not have it to where he might get hurt, and you know, to where he's not too banged up for the playoffs, that's really going to help that football team. And this could really take their offense to the next level. Then on the defensive side of the ball, two things I liked. I liked them picking up Glenn Dorsey from the Chiefs. He was a good defensive lineman. He might not have been in the right situation there, even though that's a good defensive football team. Who knows? You know, it's a low risk, high reward. Having another guy to, you know, be on that defensive front for them is fantastic, because then that, you know, the linebackers can penetrate and get in from the secondary easier, and also it takes a little pressure off of Justin Smith on that line. I think he needs a little more help on that defensive front because he's terrific at penetrating. He's a run stopper. He gets after the quarterback. He does everything for them. So you take a little pressure off him, and this guy could maybe do it. You know, I think that could help. And if he doesn't do it, oh well, they're a top 3 defense in the National Football League. And then Nnamdi Asomugha. I really like this because I don't think he was in the right situation with Philadelphia. He's a guy who I think can make plays and another guy who can cover opposite of Carlos Rogers. I don't know if Chris Culliver is back, but Chris Culliver, you know, he at times got exposed last season. He really struggled mightily in that Super Bowl against the Ravens. You know, whether it's covering Smith or, you know, he had a tough time with Anquan as well. So you have another guy that can cover and make plays with the team that gets after that quarterback. That really helps them. I think it really solidifies that secondary, especially the back end. Seahawks. Moves I really liked. I'm not going to name all of them, but they brought in 4 defensive linemen. Now, I think that's a terrific move for a team that has guys that can hit in the secondary, has 2 big physical corners, has a few good slot corners, and they already had a great pass rush, but now they're just increasing it. They're bolstering that pass rush. I think they're going to get more after the quarterback now, more depth. They could sustain an injury like Chris Clemens got hurt. Now they can sustain that type of injury. I really like that direction they're going in. Defensive side of the ball, Winfield. Love the move. It's a slot corner. You have 2 great outside corners, but now you have a terrific slot corner who's aggressive, who can make plays for them. I think that really takes their covering to the next level. Adds another veteran presence, of course. I think it really helps out those 2 corners, Browner and Richard Sherman, and take their game to the next level, because now the middle of the field is going to be tough to get across the middle of the field in the passing game as well. Percy Harvin, I know he's hurt, but I think that's a fantastic move. You're looking at a team that had young receivers. They had a little bit injuries receiving-wise, but they were, I think, last in receptions, or they were very low on receptions for receivers. But those guys, Baldwin and Golden Tate, they're smaller in stature, but you know they could. They're good possession. They're getting better as possession receivers. They're also quick, so they could get down the field and run under the football. But now you add a guy like Percy Harvin. Now, when healthy, of course, I understand that, who can really work the middle of the field. He could really do some trickery for them on those, you know, wide receiver round plays, lining up in the backfield, catching the football. He can get down the field with the speed, and he's great after the catch. I think it's going to help Russell Wilson out when he gets back on the field. I don't know when that is, but I think it really takes their pass game to another level, and it takes a little pressure off of Russell Wilson. So I think that's a fantastic move. Next, I'm going to go with the Lions. I absolutely love the move of Reggie Bush. I think that's a fantastic move because last year, what they really struggled, they actually really missed a guy like Javid Best, the guy who can break off the big run in here and there. They have Megatron. You know, they have other guys that can make plays here and there, like a good possession receiver, Nate Burleson, a pretty good athletic young tight end in Brennan Pettigrew, but they didn't have the running back. Mikel DeShore is okay, but they didn't really have the running back that can be a security blanket, catching the football out of the backfield like Javid Best, or break off the big run like Javid Best. Now you have a guy like Reggie Bush who's very consistent, and now that could take a little pressure off that high-power pass game, which it was a few years ago, wasn't really last year, and you know, take a little pressure off Megatron and attention off Matthew Stafford, and you know, be a consistent force and maybe break off the big run here and there. So I think that really helps their offense a lot. Buccaneers defense, two moves I liked. Deshaun Golson, I think that's his name. I know his last name is Golson. I think that's a fantastic move because you look at, you know, the Buccaneers, who have a pretty good defensive team, mainly kind of like their Super Bowl winning team from I think 2002. I think that was the year. Check me on that. Their front four is tough. You know, they play the run well. They get after the quarterback. But what they didn't have last year, they didn't really have a fantastic secondary. One of their better secondary players is Rondé Barber, and you know, he's getting up there in age. I don't know if he's coming back, but if he does come back, he's still a very good football player at his advanced age. But you got a guy like Goldson, gonna make plays. You know, when the quarterback gets forced into mistakes, he's going to make that more of an aggressive secondary with the way he plays. I've seen him, you know, lay a lot of great big hits. He plays the run well. I think he's really going to help that back end. And then you look at Darrelle Reeves. Now, he had an ACL injury, but he's still going to have an impact. He's another guy, a guy that, you know, they didn't really have a guy who could really cover last season. Now they have a guy on the outside who can cover and shut down those great, you know, receivers on the edge. So I think that's really good. It could really help that defensive line, because that defensive line, when they get pressure, they finally have guys that can, you know, make plays in the secondary and make the quarterback pay. So I think that's a terrific move. Two very good defensive moves for that Buccaneer team. Then I'm going to go with the St. Louis Rams. I like bringing in Tavon Austin because outside of Danny Amendola the last few years, they haven't had a lot of help for Sam Bradford receiving-wise. Now, they did have Steven Jackson, but that's a lot of pressure to put on a running back when you don't have much of a pass game. And now they finally have receivers to help out Sam Bradford. This guy, you know, he's a dynamic receiver, and I think he can really make some plays for them. And, you know, I think he could really be that guy, the go-to guy for Sam Bradford that Sam Bradford he hasn't had in his career yet. I really think that's a good move. Then you look at Jared Cook, security blanket for that team, going to be a guy over the middle. He could take a little, he could really ease the pressure off of Austin. And, you know, he really supplies a over the middle, he's a good playmaking tight end. His size and speed is fantastic. That could really, you know, help their offense a lot. And then you look at Jake Long. They've had some offensive line problems. Hence, that's why, you know, we haven't seen a lot out of Sam Bradford, you know, consistency-wise. Now they have a guy that can protect his blind side, help the run game, let the pass game do its work. So those are my NFC offseason moves. I thank you for watching. Please spread the word on my videos. Thank you very much.